Hi, I'm Dr. Jack West from Seattle, Washington, reporting from ASCO 2017 in Chicago. This year, our lung program is going to feature several exciting presentations, I would say clustered into a couple of major categories, and the first is targeted therapies. One of the most anticipated presentations is going to be the ALEX trial comparing alectinib as a first-line therapy for ALK-positive non-small cell lung cancer to crizotinib, which is a current standard of care. And we know that this global phase 3 trial was positive based on a press release, but haven't seen any of the actual data yet. That will be presented on Tuesday morning and is very likely to change our practice if the results are anything close to the smaller Japanese trial called J-ALEX that was presented last year and was remarkably superior for alectinib. There's also going to be another important presentation on ALK-positive disease at that same session. This is going to be talking about lorlatinib, a third-generation ALK inhibitor with activity in patients who have received a prior second-generation ALK inhibitor, as well as those who have received less significant prior therapy. Another important presentation is going to be on a Chinese study of adjuvant therapy looking at post-operative gefitinib compared to chemotherapy with cisplatin and vinorelbine in patients with a known EGFR mutation after surgery for a stage 2 or 3A lung cancer. This trial is very exciting and will be presented in the oral presentation for early stage disease on Monday morning and will potentially change practice. It shows a significant improvement in progression-free survival with gefitinib for this population compared to chemotherapy, but we don't see an overall survival difference, and I think it's going to be important to debate how significant that is in the absence of an overall survival benefit, and also whether we should be adding an EGFR inhibitor rather than replacing a therapy with known survival benefits such as platinum-based chemotherapy in the postoperative setting. Another targeted therapy trial or presentation is going to be featuring the potential benefit of MET inhibition in patients with a known MET amplification or mutation in exon 14. Dr. Mark Awad and colleagues will be presenting their data in a scientific session on Sunday and showing that there is a higher survival in recipients of a MET inhibitor in patients who have a MET mutation. And this could potentially make MET one of the most actionable and valuable to test in going forward. Of course, at ASCO, there's also important trials in immunotherapy. One of those is going to be looking at the potential value of atezolizumab in patients when it is continued after the time of initial RECIST progression of disease. And so the question will emerge, is there still potential benefit for continuing immunotherapy beyond RECIST progression? The study, which is a retrospective look at the results in the OAK trial of atezolizumab versus docetaxel, suggests that many patients can benefit, but we should be careful about selecting the right patients, I would say. That will be presented also on Tuesday morning. There's going to be an update of the results of the important KEYNOTE-21G trial of chemotherapy versus chemotherapy with concurrent pembrolizumab, and that study will show more of a trend toward a survival benefit. We just got an approval by the FDA for the combination of carboplatin and pemetrexed with pembrolizumab, and this is potentially going to make it an even more compelling concept. There's going to be a study looking at the improvement in progression-free survival even in patients with therapy after they've completed immunotherapy. Julie Bramer is going to be reporting on the results of the KEYNOTE-24 trial comparing chemo to immunotherapy and showing that in patients who received immunotherapy first line, they seem to do better even with second line therapy than the control arm with chemo. There's going to be a couple of important trials looking at nivolumab or nivolumab and ipilimumab in populations that we really don't have enough good treatment options for. One study in small cell lung cancer, relapse disease, and another in patients with mesothelioma. And even though these are not large studies, they will loom large in our concept of how to treat patients because we really have so few options, and these are agents that are potentially available to us in the clinic. And then finally, outside of the realm of immunotherapy or targeted therapy, one important study will be looking at the potential value of prophylactic cranial irradiation in patients who have stage 3 lung cancer and receive chemo and radiation. We know that brain is an important first or sometimes only site of relapse in these patients, and the question is whether prophylactic cranial irradiation provides a significant benefit. It turns out that this study shows it improves control in the central nervous system, but not a significant benefit in overall survival. Is that enough to change practice? We'll talk about that. You can follow all of Medscape's coverage of ASCO on medscape.com. Look for us on Twitter at @MedscapeOnc and on Instagram at @Medscape.